am. I'm streaming. The only thing that went wrong was usually call in, the computer picks up. Today the computer's like, we don't really want to talk to CRN. So we have to use the regular phone line today.
Well, you know what happened? See, we built the wall around CRN. Yeah.
It works.
You're going to get a passport, lady, or you ain't getting in, okay?
Oh boy.
So you are on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm in San Diego. Yeah, I'm home.
Yeah. I'm on your timeline. It's like I always there. Finally, there it is. Beautiful red and beautiful necklace. I can't figure out if it's a cross.
It's a cross.
Yeah,
it's a cross.
I thought it might be the USMC symbol or something like that.
No, not yet.
And you had a good Christmas, I assume. I saw a lot of nice pictures. You saw a lot in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I had a good Christmas. Glad to be home for a couple days to kind of unwind from the energy and the chaos that is Washington, D.C. And it looks like I get to go back to all of the chaos in a few short days. So we'll see what's on the agenda there.
You know, the interesting thing is that I had two subjects here: the dramatic fall of the general. I know you could touch on that.
Yeah.
And also the oil drive mid-east nation building. And when I first looked at it, Kimberly, I mean, fantastic in-depth report. But I just scanned it at the beginning, and I said, well, this is sort of like it says, he's getting ready to add additional troops. And I said, boy, this must be a misprint or something. Then I realized this is
A repeat.
This is to tell you what's really going on in Syria. And who knows what's going on in the cereal, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But anyway, very interesting.
Yeah, well, it's actually the story that will go out today. I didn't publish yesterday because it was Christmas, so I'm waiting for this broadcast to finish, and then I'm going to get it all ready, and this broadcast will go out later today with my newsletter. But the article, The Oil Drives Perpetual War, is actually written like 3 years ago. And when you look at it and you read it, and you follow the headlines and you see what's going on today, it's really, I think ironic that you could just change the dates and a few names in this, and you go, oh my gosh, that's exactly what's happening in the Middle East right now, and it's exactly what the United States is doing. And I think it's really important to kind of point these types of things out, because when you're looking at, and you talk to people who are, they follow, wars, like past and present, and they're looking at, what we can learn. We're always trying to learn from our experiences. And it seems over the last 7-8 years, we really haven't learned anything. And that's kind of the scary thing. And I think after the break, we'll get into it with President Trump. It's an uphill battle what he's going to face over there at the Pentagon.
I'll tell you on this article that you're going to be able to read very soon, listeners.
You can go online and read it now, too. It's on the KD report, so.
Yeah, there you go. But it's almost like all these conspiracy theories, that float around. Oh, they didn't do this and they didn't do that. And you start reading them, and you talk about there was a plan, and it was called the New American Century NAC plan in 2001. All right?
Mm-hmm.
And let me just give you part of this, because we'll be coming up on a break in just a moment. And this was according to former Army General Wesley Clark, that there was this plan to topple 7 Middle East regimes in 5 years, while the U.S. was still the undisputed superpower in the world. And the PNAC plan was to nation build by disposing the government of Iraq, Iran, Libya, Syria, Lebanon, Sudan, and Somalia within a 5-year period. And boy, if you think this is science fiction stuff, wait till we get into this with Kimberly Dvorak. And it's bkdreport.com. She's streaming live as we speak on Facebook and Periscope. And she's just everywhere. Right now she's here, and we'll be right back. Well, when you look at this stuff, for example, it says the 9/11 attack, all right, provided the opening needed to launch the region's dominating tactic that we were talking about.
Yep.
PNAC.
Yep.
Then you got ocean chain claiming weapons of mass destruction, and Syria
Yeah.
You got generals leaving, so does Mathis, is he saying, no, you're wrong to pull out? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I was there all last week in D.C. and there was a lot of talk. I mean, a lot of us have been, questioning whether the administration should continue the insurgency we had in Syria. We're getting a little disturbed that this was, continuing to carry on a lot longer than it really needed to. And you've got, and when you see commentators on TV, like in essence, you see Rachel Maddow, who's a super liberal, hates anything Republican, like on the side of war. I mean, these people are going ballistic. And you have people who are long time, we don't need to be in war, we need to get out of the Middle East and all that. And now that Trump came out and said, hey, we're going to get out of Syria and we're going to cut that back, we're going to cut our troops in half in Afghanistan. You would have thought that World War III had started and, these people who are trying to get troops out of there just a few short years ago were now ardent fans of war. So obviously the president has been fighting an uphill battle on all this, and he campaigned that he was going to get out of the Middle East, that he thought that getting into Iraq was a really bad idea, which he was right about. He campaigned on these issues. And for people and commentators on TV to say, oh, this is just a promises check for the president, and he made that choice. And why didn't he go down to the Pentagon and talk with General Mattis and find out why, they needed to come up with a plan and all of this. And, when I, talked to a few of my people inside and, I actually kind of defended the president on this one. And, they looked at me, I just said, look, there's leaks everywhere with this president. Had he have brought Mattis in and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. I want to get out of Syria. We can, we got 2,000 people. That's a couple of 747 plane rides out of there. We'll just get out and then we're going to go out and we're going to announce that we're going to leave Syria and then we're going to start drawing down in Afghanistan. It would have been leaked all over and plans would have formed to try to prevent the president from being the commander-in-chief. So that's why he's reduced to letting this information go on Twitter and surprising people invariably, because if he doesn't, then there's, a network worth of newscasters ready to jump on him. And then there's the deep state that's essentially embedded everywhere. The Pentagon has such a high level of people that are Obama holdovers. Nothing's getting done inside the Pentagon. We're spending more and more money. And, in the United States, Americans we're not getting wealthy from it. Certain contractors are getting wealthy from it. But all it's doing is right now, why are we in Syria? Can anybody, answer that question?
Let me ask you this. Do the generals, you think, and whenever, for example, he ignored higher up and you say there's all these holdovers, do people say that he's being too kind or he's not, we know he's not stupid, all right? But, there's this saying about one way or the other, they've got to say, you got to trust your generals.
Yeah.
Or you just clear the board and bring in new ones, and I don't know.
Yeah. I think he's at the point, I think you're going to see this. I think you're going to see a full cleaning of the House by the president. I think, it wasn't well known out there, but General Mattis actually was Hillary Clinton's military campaign advisor. So, you have people that say and have surrounded President Trump that they're on his side and we want to work with you and you're a great guy. But they go back to their office and they say, we're going to be the ones in control. If he thinks he's going to do A, B, C, or 3, we'll show him a thing or two. And again, the president's elected by the United States citizens. He won. General Mattis did not win an election. If he wants to get out and run for president and he thinks that his way of running the country is much better than Donald Trump, jump in the race in 2020 and good luck. This president was elected. He campaigned on getting out of these wars. And, I think what people used to think, at least, I still believe, what a lot of people used to think, that when we kind of go into a country like we did in Syria and we just put some of our, our Delta, our Navy SEALs, and some of our really special ops guys in there, most people used to think that was mission creep. And then that mission creep becomes Afghanistan, it becomes Iraq, it becomes, Yemen, it becomes all of these issues So when is it okay to get out? Isn't it okay to kind of, we went in, we cleared out ISIS, and if Turkey and Russia want to go into Syria and get rid of ISIS or fight each other, you know what? Let them do it, because we have no strategic, Syria offers nothing to us anymore. They used to be a secular country before war came their way, and it was orchestrated by a number of nations, including the United States. They used to be a secular country where their kids went to college. They traveled the world, came to America. 5-6 years ago, that's the kind of country it was. Now there's nothing left. So I just think people are looking at these wars. So you look at these wars over and over. How long have we done this, Chuck? How long? So how long is it going to take? And I think that Trump just kind of said, you know what, forget it. I'm being, I'm not, my employees that I picked to represent me, they're not being truthful to me. So you know what? I'm going to, say what I'm going to say. I'm going to fire these people. And, I think, I talked to a couple people that are very close friends with Mattis, and, they were like even questioning. They're like, what kind of general says, okay, I'm giving my resignation, but I'll leave at the end of February? And, kind of acting like he knew more than President Trump, and Trump's like, okay, good, you're gone. Pack your stuff, you're gone now. I don't want you there. And I think that, some people in the media thought that was like, oh my gosh, President Trump is... But what employee really dictates to their boss, hey, you know what, I'm thinking about going, I really don't think you know what you're doing, and I'm going to leave here in about 3 months. So I'm just going to give you the heads up about that. I mean, most employees would go, you know what, if that's the way you feel, you're fired. Go. Now, today. And I think that's what I think the irony is. When you look at this and you see how the media is reacting, and you're seeing how a lot of the left people are acting, you would think they were pro-war, like we need to be in there, and if we're not there, nothing's going to change. It was so, I thought I walked into the Twilight Zone last week when I'm watching people and how they're commenting. I'm like, wow, it's great, I'm glad you were, woo.
All you got to do is keep reminding yourself, they've got that, the Trump syndrome.
Yeah, derangement syndrome, man.
Yeah. Part of Russia for hundreds of years.
Yep.
And which also qualifies their routing of the South Stream gas pipeline. But let me ask you talk about Qatar. You say the owner of the world's largest proven gas fields. Was this before the Permian Basin and New Mexico and Texas?
I don't think that we necessarily... now we know the United States is now going to be the preeminent force when it comes to natural gas. We don't even know what the United States is capable of just yet, although we are becoming a net exporter, which is why it's another good reason why we don't need to be in the Middle East. And if Russia, if the old, force there, the diehard Clintonistas and all that, if they want to be part of, we have to have a Cold War with Russia, and that's just the be-all, the end-all, I think they're sorely mistaken. Most people could care less. We have a lot more in common with Russia than we do with Saudi Arabia. And I think most people, if you said, look, if you went to Russia on vacation, are you going to see women in burqas? Are you going to see, daily hangings out on the street? I mean, I don't understand the fascination with, going after Russia the way we're trying to go after them. And I think that's also kind of, hit the president quite hard, because he's like, well, I don't understand what these people did. I mean, countries are always going to have naturally, you're going to, have countries that want to, consume other countries. I mean, in the Middle East, it's been going on for centuries, and it will continue to go on. And despite what America does now in the Middle East, it's going to continue to do exactly what it's doing. The being involved in Syria is a great first step, and it's going to, and this I think kind of gets the military-industrial complex. These people all beat up. I mean, war is money in this country. This country makes, there are a lot of people that make money. Hillary Clinton, her foundation, makes money on war. They're not making money on peacetime. So this is why you're seeing a lot of people that support this. But once we see that we can get out of a country like Syria and it doesn't completely fall apart, then we go into Afghanistan, we pull our troops out there, then they're logically looking at the South Korea and pulling the troops out there. And once people start seeing that we can bring our troops home and we don't need to be in these places and fight battles that aren't ours to fight, they're going to actually see that maybe people actually like America a little bit more than they do right now.
I think that a long time ago, the word was put out and people started saying, oh yeah, we got to do that. We got to get in there before Russia gets in with their troops and takes over that country. And now China, will China move in? And remind me a little bit later here, because I want to find out get your opinion on that, about letting other countries go in and help them, and then they move in their military, like Russia or China.
Yeah.
But then the Hormuz, the Straits of Hormuz, I want to get into that.
Hormuz,
later.
yeah.
But what about the other countries moving in when we move out?
If Russia wants to waste their money like they did in Afghanistan, and, essentially that war in Afghanistan, what brought the breakup of the USSR, if they want to jump back in and do that, go for it. I mean, they don't have any money. They don't have the money to sustain something like this. Neither does Iran. And when you look at, China, I mean, when have you read on the front page of any paper that the great Chinese battle against the Philippines and they just demolished that country, and because the Chinese aren't fighters, and they're known to be actually very poor fighters, and they know this, and they haven't sent troops anywhere. I mean, have you seen any Chinese troops in Afghanistan lately? No. Have you seen them going in and making money on the huge reserve of rare earth minerals? Yes. Has it cost them one life in a soldier? No. Who's fought to protect that? The United States. They're laughing at us. So why don't we get access to make money over there? And this is what China does. They build up a whole bunch of here's some troops. Look, we got some really nice machinery. We've stolen all of our intellectual property from the United States. We can build all this stuff. But if you were to send them to war, and this is why they don't go to war, they're kind of like the Iraqis when they were fighting in Desert One. You'll remember Desert Storm, when all of a sudden here comes the planes and they're raising their hands and putting their shirts up. We surrender. That's what you would see with the Chinese. So I mean, it's a lot of this stuff is made up and built up so we can keep the military-industrial complex going in this country. And most people buy into that because they just think, and they don't look and do research, and they just believe what they're told on TV. And this is something that, it's pretty well documented that the Chinese really aren't that good at fighters. They can be good at cybersecurity and things like that, but when it comes to putting a boot on the ground and actually fighting for something, they just don't have the fighters capable of world domination.
And the only time where people would be saying, wait a minute, Kimberly, what about Korea? The Korean War, the Chinese certainly won some battles there, so, they might have a rebuttal to your comment.
The little one.
Now, on the Straits of Hormuz,
Okay.
that you say in this article that it accounts for 30% of oil shipped globally on a daily basis. But now there's this new thing going on which may just rule that all out, right? And Russia's also involved in this.
Yeah, I think that, when you look at, I think 5 years ago, for sure, the United States, the one worry with Iran was that they would have the ability to shut down the Straits of Hormuz. And that's where, in essence, the oil is kind of flowing out of the region. And it's a huge shipping lane. That's how, all of the products, get to and from the region is in there. And Iran could have very easily, and they could still actually shut it down. But if it's as important as it's supposed to be, it's just not as important to the United States as it once was, because we are actually now, with oil, we're a net exporter, and this is why countries that can take care of themselves, whether it's farming, manufacturing, when you're a country capable of doing those things, then you don't necessarily need other countries to support you. And there are a lot of landlocked countries over in the Middle East and in Europe that actually need those resources. They don't have all of those resources within their their borders. So when you're looking at this as a huge issue, the Straits of Hormuz used to be like something that was like number one that we had to protect because it would hurt us directly. And now, again, the United States, I mean, time has kind of moved on. We've learned how to better, get the oil out of the ground, get the natural gas, fracking, all of those different techniques. So that just kind of leaves us as a neutral partner. And where we are in the world, we don't necessarily sit in huge, warmongering countries. I mean, Mexico's a mess, obviously, it's with the drug cartels and that, but we're not sitting next to like a country that wants to annihilate us, like, Yemen next or Israel or some of these other countries where they're, that's something that happen, so.
We're going to be right back and wrap things up with Kimberly Dvorak, D-V-O-R-A-K, streaming live on Facebook, and her website is thekbreport.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back. With Kimberly Dvorak, our award-winning national security, border security investigative reporter, and reporting as we speak right now. Back in San Diego, she's I was going to say close hopping, but no, it's more like Washington D.C., San Diego, Washington D.C., San Diego. You have your own passport between D.C. and San Diego, special. Somebody could have given you a Christmas gift, right?
I don't know about that. We'll have to talk off air there, okay? Got something in mind?
Yeah. There is Major Rod Taylor. He's the U.S. Army Command General Staff, and sort of saying that Syria is more about religion
Yeah.
than the oil and gas. You think, because, boy, I'm telling you, oil, gas, and religion, I bet
It's a deadly combo.
Just fought over that.
Yeah, the deadly combo, that's for sure. Actually, I think that Syria's success, if you could look at it before the war, before their civil war, their success, I think, was something that a lot of the Middle East countries and Northern African countries, they were worried about because it was success. I mean, they could still be, Muslim, and they could still go to school and go to college and go watch movies on the weekend, take their kids to soccer games, and they were actually successful. And you look at countries that are able to do this. I mean, Turkey was a very secular country, starting to backslide and all that. And I think that when you're looking at some of the religions, whether it's Sunni or the Shias, I think their fear is that, oh my gosh, you see what's going on in Iran, that people are kind of raising their hands going, you know what, the internet did come our way as well. And hey, it looks like other people have some rights that we don't have. And I think this is what fear looks like to these regimes that are either continuing to prop up their own countries or looking to undermine other countries who are successful. Because if it becomes common knowledge that it's okay, we don't need to have one mullah or 3 clerics running our country, and we can be successful. The common person is just going to say, well, like, I'm over that. I think that I'm going to, kind of go for a little more moderate situation. It doesn't mean they're giving up their religion by any stretch. But I think that the religion is always, you talk to young people like, man, wars always started by religion, which a lot of them are. And I think that this war was not started because you had secular countries over there that were just busy killing all of their citizens. This war in the Arab Spring kind of came about because everybody was kind of starting to wind down and get along with each other, and they needed something to spark the war machines going there. And for the United States, it's beneficial, I guess, to be the one that oversees all of these wars in the Middle East. Which, of course, it's not. And I think most Americans, if you ask them, they would say, look, you know what, we're tired of war. After 17, 18 years, we are tired of war.
Well, I'll tell you, like in Iran, once those people got a taste of the Western culture,
Yeah.
they didn't want to go back,
Yeah.
The bad guys in Iran, they have to face it every day now. Well,
Yeah.
what do you mean you have to face the freedom?
exactly. And that's I think the underlying factor with all this. And then if there's not war in the Middle East, then we're not going to need the military-industrial complex to fund and build bombs and bullets and all of these things that go along with these wars. My suggestion has been, what? How about we just keep the military-industrial complex, we'll retool them, and then they can start rebuilding this country. So that money is going towards rebuilding America instead of blowing up the Middle East. So.
Kimberly, all out of time, and look forward to next week. We'll let people know what day you're going to be on, or I don't leave that up to you.
Okay.
Got it open, and so look forward to our next visit.
Okay, guys. Happy New Year, everybody.